Oh, the nostalgia is high with this one. This is my first run review of the Nike Pegasus Plus. So welcome back to another running shoe review. Today we're taking a look at the Nike Pegasus Plus after my first run. And what a first run it was, a baptism of fire. What did I use to use my Pegasus Turbo 2 for? Workout. So that's exactly what we did with this one. Today, as with all first review or first impressions videos, we'll be going through how I tested it, give you a technical overview, and then give you my thoughts on the shoe. Quick disclosure, this is a pair of shoes that I purchased with my own money. Sports shoes currently have a 20% discount going if you order through the app. So they're $164.99 normally. I managed to pick up this pair for £133-ish. So let's get into how I tested the shoe. I'm currently deep in marathon training with a couple of big weeks left to go. Alongside a marathon specific session, I also have a faster than marathon pace speed session every week, and that is exactly what I use this thing for. 2x6 minutes, 2x5 minutes, 2x4 minutes, 2x3 minutes, 2x2 minutes, and 2x1 minute. It was a mammoth cut down workout and it went really well. My goal with this workout was to start slightly faster than marathon pace and just bring the paces down on every single rep, which is exactly what I managed to do. And this thing did it really well. And before I give you more thoughts on it, how I found it after the first run, let's go through a quick technical overview. So I went true to size in the shoe, which is a UK size 13, and it fitted perfectly. We're talking about a 10mm heel to toe drop. I believe 35mm of stack in the heel, 25 in the forefoot, which would definitely feel about right. And in my UK size 13, it comes in at 333 grams or 11.7 ounces. And as always, we'll start away at the back of the shoe, talk about the heel counter, ankle collar, tongue, lacing, upper midsole, and finish with the outsole. This is a pretty simplistic shoe, a little bit like what the Turbo 2 was itself. Now, I never tested the original Turbo. I jumped in at the Turbo 2, and I definitely got those vibes. The silhouette of the shoe looks very similar, but there are a few small changes. We've got quite a stout heel counter, and compared to the Turbo 2, I try not to make too many comparisons. There's a little bit more built up. We've got some good cushioning around the back there. It is a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more like what the original Turbo looked like rather than Turbo 2. But yes, a very stout heel counter. This does not move, and I always appreciate a heel flare away from the Achilles area. The ankle cut is lovely, and that sits really nicely under the ankle collar, and the tongue is quite a thin tongue, paper thin at the top, and as always, just when you get down onto the lacing, a very small bit of padding that runs through there just to stop the pressure when you are cinching those laces down. Nothing fancy with the lacing system, a pretty standard lacing system as you can see there, and I can confirm I got a really solid lockdown from start to finish. So first run, cinched it from the bottom all the way up to the top, and they did not come loose throughout the run. Nothing moved. It felt really good. Going back to the tongue quickly, it's not a gusseted tongue. It is held in place by this tab on the tongue there. The laces weave through it like we see with a lot of shoes, and that just holds it in place. And again, nothing moves side to side there. So that was all good. The upper itself is a fly knit upper, very comfortable indeed. Different kind of, not textures, but thicknesses of the fly knits. Obviously it's more, there's more of it around the back here. There's a little bit more structure just in general with that kind of heel cut that goes through the shoe if you trace my finger around there. But as we get to the front, obviously it's a bit more open. We've got much more breathable fly knit being used here and around the front, and then of course this thicker strip that runs across the top here like a racing stripe. Now I have to be honest, it didn't cause me an issue, but when I did slip my foot into the shoe and I did cinch it down and I did start walking out there to start the run, my big toe that sat here, this bit of red fabric right on the corner did push down on the top of my big toe, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. But actually when I was running, nothing happened at all. I didn't feel it or notice it, but that was the first thing that popped into my head when I got out there. So I just wanted to mention that. Nothing happened on the run, no rubbing, nothing. It was perfect, but beware of that. And that obviously goes down through the outsole as well, but we'll come to that shortly. Otherwise, a very big thumbs up, comfortable upper, really enjoyed it. Midsole, full length Zoom X midsole, slightly firmer than what I have found in other Zoom X shoes. I reckon this is a different compound, although it looks quite squishy and feels quite squishy here. When you're running in it, it's not quite as soft and squishy as you might find, let's say, in the Invincible. And especially in that original Next Percent version 1 and Alphafly version 1, it's definitely not at that level of squish, but it is still very comfortable and very nice and enjoyable. So as I said, slightly firmer than I anticipated, but then again, that does come down to the fact that we've got a 10mm drop and there isn't quite as much of it in the forefoot. Lovely and cushioned in the heel, but you really do notice that slant in the shoe. And then moving on to the outsole, we've got this high abrasion rubber that's used, quite thick rubber to be fair. Big kudos actually, I was out there in wet conditions this morning, very tacky, very sticky to the road, very good grip. I was actually, again, one of the first things I thought in my head as I was running, mental note for the review, good grip. I was having to jump off and on pavements quite a bit. No slipping, no worrying, doing tight turns, all good in this shoe. So again, I think that's going to add nicely to the durability. It does, of course, add weight. We are talking about 55-ish grams heavier than the previous Turbo 2, so it has gone up in weight substantially from that previous version. However, there's a few changes that we'll go through shortly as to why that's happened. Otherwise, the rubber is at the front, at the heel, and we have the exposed midsole in the middle, and that is it for the tech. So let's move on to how I found the shoe itself. How was it? It was actually decent. I'm amazed to say that I actually enjoyed a Nike running shoe. Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? I enjoy their super shoes. I find them to be really good. The Alphafly 2 was the only Duff one that I found. Street Fly is brilliant. A lot of their daily trainer offerings are very subpar when it comes to other brands, and I have been very open and critical of Nike. It's probably why they don't send me shoes anymore. But to be honest with you, this has been a breath of fresh air. I've really enjoyed this one. Now, it's not without its flaws. There's a few things and a few gripes I do have still, but overall, it gets a big thumbs up. When I got home from my run, I wrote down 3 things straight away that I wanted to mention today. On my notes here, feels like a turbo, notice the drop, not much forefoot foam. So yes, it feels like a turbo, looks like a turbo, but it feels like one too. Nostalgia came flooding back when I slipped this on. I was like, oh my goodness, this is taking me back to the Turbo 2. Albeit the weight difference is obviously noticeable. However, the 10mm drop was just such a classic sign of a turbo. Like, it just felt aggressive. And weirdly enough, when you're there, you can see there's not much of a rocker in this shoe at all. But I really did feel like this little rocker here, the way it curls up, was actually quite aggressive. I know that sounds really weird because in super shoes, sometimes they start 70 or 60% back and they really curl up. And that's where you get that really pronounced rocker sensation. And in daily trainers, you often don't get them that much. But just this small curl up at the end, coupled with the 10mm drop, made it feel like you were always on your toes, which was a classic feeling for me that I was in a turbo. But you do notice the ground contact feel. There's not a lot of forefoot foam here, 25mm. So that was quite nice. You do all of the work in this shoe. This is very much like the Kinvara for me. In terms of the Kinvara is obviously a ton lighter and a much less of a shoe than this one. However, the Kinvara is something that I use for pure speed work when I want to do all the work. I don't want a plate, I don't want anything aiding me. I just want a shoe that feels light, cushioned, and is going to move me fast. And that's effectively what this is. There's nothing fancy about it. We've moved on so much with technology that I suppose in our minds we expect a lot. You know, all these plates coming into shoes, all these big stack heights. And so to run in something with ground contact feel these days is actually quite a rarity. But I value that a lot, and I do a lot of my speed sessions in these type of shoes. I kind of feel like as a runner, to get strong and to build our strength in general, we need to put in the work. We need to stop relying on these shoes with plates and stuff and start using shoes like the Kinvara and, to be honest, now this thing. So I'm pretty damn happy with it, but let me tell you a couple of things that there is a little bit of a gripe on. Why the 55 gram weight increase? They have made it a bit plusher, naturally, I understand that. If I look at the competitors in the realm of this shoe, so we've got things like the Hoka Max 6, we've got the Rebel, we've got the Adidas SL2, the Endorphin Speed 4, I know that has a nylon plate in it, but Those are the type of shoes, and this comes out as the heaviest, all right? So I do still feel like Nike are not paying attention to the weight as much, and in all honesty, when you're looking not necessarily at a daily plodder, but something that you want as a bit of a jack of all trades shoe, you do need to consider weight when it comes to it, because naturally I'm gonna want something that's super light. The Kinvara that I love to use out on the trails that I've mentioned already is about 250 odd grams, so it's about 80 grams lighter than this thing. So weight does make a difference. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is I'm just a bit disappointed with the Zoom X. I've got to say it's not the Zoom X that's in a streak fly. So okay, so as an example, the Kinvara for me, as I've highlighted a few times, is a brilliant go-to top end speed day shoe, as is the streak fly. Despite the streak fly's, I won't swear, poor durability. I mean, I'm talking, I can't get 200 miles out of a pair of streak flies. I've had 2 of them and they've been some of the best 200 miles of my life. Like, I have loved running in the streak fly, and I would, if they're on discount, buy more streak flies, because I feel like to get the 200 miles out of them, those 200 miles are more enjoyable than what I would get paying a bit more money for something a bit more durable. I want to enjoy my running, and I enjoy running in the streak flies, and it feels like that Zoom X is a bit softer than this. I would have happily loved to have seen them soften this up a bit, and if they needed to, put a shank in there like they did with the streak fly just to stabilize it a bit. Absolutely fine. Yeah, that's my only other thing. Now, I appreciate there are other elements that are going to add weight to it. If they could have brought this down in line with something like the Endorphin Speed 4, bam, that is an absolute winner. Sadly, it's not. It is still a little bit too heavy. But I will say, despite the fact that the rubber on the outsole is going to add more weight, very impressed with how tacky it is. Yeah, I feel like they're nearly there with this one. It's great to be testing this one out. It's great. I was not going to test this shoe. I can confirm, after the 41 Pegasus, I was just done with Nike shoes. So frustrated. But as my Max 6 are almost on the edge, I wanted something to come in and kind of take the mantle. I've got the Adidas SL2 in as well. I wanted another one in for the rotation, because those are the type of shoes, these ones, that I use a lot in my rotation, probably the most out of any other type of shoe. So that's why I ended up getting it, and I can confirm I'm very pleased. So despite a couple of gripes, there's nothing necessarily wrong with this shoe. It's brilliant to be able to see that Nike have done a good job with it. It's great for the nostalgia, but technology has moved on. A lot of you probably won't like this shoe because of the ground contact feel, and because it is heavier than the Speed 4, than the SL2, than the Rebel, than the Max 6. It is going to be top of the class when it comes to weight, sadly. But otherwise, I've got to say, a great first run. How much more I'll use it during marathon training, I'm not sure, but I can confirm that I will definitely use this post-marathon training when we get back to those faster speed sessions and get back into base training and do some shorter, faster stuff when we've moved on from that. So yeah, good first impressions. If you want to learn more about this shoe, I can guarantee you there'll be a video on the Extra channel appearing in the next couple of weeks when I've done another couple of runs in it, give you guys some more thoughts on it, do a little bit more testing. Make sure you check out the Extra channel, head over there, subscribe, and yeah, there'll be a video appearing in the next couple of weeks about this one on there. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Still waiting for the Brooks Hyperion 2 to come in. That one is been ordered, so hopefully that will arrive very, very soon. But other than that, I'll leave you guys to it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.